more fucking around. It's Wild Style Radio. Wild Style Radio. Radio.
Stand up and shout!
What's up?
We made it!
We are here, and this is the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show. We're coming to you live from Salisbury Center Studios in Manassas, Virginia.
Are we on Central Standard Time instead of Eastern Standard Time?
We're almost on Central Standard Time.
It was a wicked Manassas
but
accident.
the clock now matches real time.
That's true. That's a good point, Kevin.
We waited till daylight savings time, and now
then,
we're on time.
I completely forgot. Actually, I just assumed we were about 5:40 because we got started so damn late. That was terrible.
What's up, man?
Well, we fought traffic to get here.
We did.
Yeah, they shut down an entire interstate.
That's
in our
typical
direction.
of our area.
Yes, yeah. So sorry if you were
Incredibly
waiting for
worse
live.
today, but yes.
Yeah.
We're live. What's new?
All right, man. So we're getting into some old stuff.
We are.
You know, I don't know if you wanted to get in some new stuff right out of the gate. Does anything catch you in terms of recent news?
Well, I hear GNR has a new drummer.
I know. I heard about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little surprising.
That was,
Frank Farrar's been around for a bit.
he has outlasted most, right? So, in the carousel that is Guns N' Roses.
The drama.
Yes.
The drama carousel.
They did not ask Steven Adler to come back.
Yeah, well,
That'd be heartbreaking. How do you think Steven Adler feels about that?
he was like, oh,
Right?
kind of like Sebastian Bach when,
Lizzie Hale.
yeah,
Stepped into Skid Row.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Eric Gronwall stepped aside. He's like,
Grunwald.
wait, he's like, no call came in.
No. And I'm sure that Axl dictated a lot of that change. And
What
drove
sounds like maybe Duff,
it. Okay.
the new drummer Isaac Carpenter, has done some studio work with Duff
Yes.
on his solo projects.
Yes.
So maybe a little more Duff than Axl.
And I have to confess, I have not listened to the most recent episode of Three Chords and the Truth, which aside from the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show is my favorite radio show,
Right?
where I bet you some information about that could be revealed.
Could be.
Yeah. But I haven't heard. So
Probably the next
little-
episode.
little behind. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we're going a little retro.
We're going retro tonight.
So we do like to do our bottoms up segments, and we did bottoms up.
1995.
Did we do 95 already?
We
Or
did
was it
95 already.
95. Okay.
So that's 30 years back.
30 years back.
So getting back to some good old rock and roll. But I saw Mr. Sullivan out there laughing. My math was on. That was 30.
I was laughing at something totally different.
All right, that makes me feel better. I was like, damn, did I really not carry the one the right way? Did I a little off a little bit?
Divide
Right
by
now?
3.
We're going back 40 years tonight.
We are.
We are going. And so right.
Way back for us.
I said that confidently because the math was on. But yeah, so going back 1985, we talked. We've been doing a lot of these recommendations as rock recommendations.
Yep.
We went back to 1984 last year in 2024, so keeping in line with even decades. There's great rock and roll that happens in all decades, and so this is the decade we chose to really kind of discuss tonight, which is a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, and we were able to talk about in the 1995 segment because our producer John, who's not here tonight,
Right.
could reminisce. He knew some of those songs.
He did.
But I'm not sure our producer
We have
tonight.
even a younger producer.
I don't. What year were you born?
98.
Oh.
So
man,
yes.
Yeah. This would be way
Wasn't even a
before
twinkle
Scott's
in
time.
mommy and daddy's eye yet.
You would have been a part of the 95 conversation.
Oh, dang, yeah. Maybe.
At the ripe old age of 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Scott, we try to think about how people consume music now, right? Because we talk about albums. Do you listen to albums?
Yeah.
Okay. So we really like albums, right? We've talked about that. But a lot of people like playlists and singles.
Cat's calling him a liar.
I don't listen to rock albums anymore.
Do you not even a Nickelback?
Do you know what an album is?
Of course. Nickelback albums all the time. Does that count? I guess it does.
If you
Kevin tells
listen-
me it doesn't count. I'm so beat, yeah.
the compilation of songs that comes out under one title, that may be
course.
like 12 to 16 songs you listen
Yeah.
to in succession.
Of course.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we talked about that a lot last show, actually, like singles versus. So what I'm going to try to do, because what we get when we get people that listen to this is I remember that album, but then it's also I want to add a song to my playlist. So I'm going to try to address a song along with the album. So you get a little taste of both, right?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So like I'm sure you know that too. Like I know that you're Johnny on the spot when it comes to the, like some of the songs you're going to like talk about in the
Sure.
albums that we're about to talk about. So yeah, so I'm going to try to mention at least one. If I don't mention at least one song, then smack me in the face, because hopefully then if you're a playlist person, you got something to add to your rock playlist.
And it seems like, we each put our own art together,
We did.
and
The art department.
it looks like we even got in sync on the theme
did.
of the title slide.
We tried to give a throwback to 1980 pop culture. What do you got there, Kevin? You got Michael J. Fox on yours? I see that.
It's all movies that came out in 1985.
Yeah, exactly.
Considering we're sitting in the Salisbury Center,
I got Rocky
which
there.
used to be a movie theater.
That's
So
true. Did you see some of those movies here?
I did. I did see Rocky.
Okay. Is that
Rocky
Rocky 4?
Four.
Rocky 4.
Yes. Right
Saw it
in,
on Thanksgiving
right here.
with my brothers
Yep.
Okay.
and my dad. Yeah.
You saw it here at the when it was the Reb Yank movie theater?
No, Reb Yank was at the other end.
I always
Yeah.
mixed that up.
Manassas movies.
Yeah, it's Manassas movies back
Gotcha.
then.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the Goonies,
And the Goonies.
little Teen Wolf and Breakfast Club.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Marty McFly.
I just had movie stars. So they were movies that were out at the time.
Right.
So that would be Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger in a Terminator, and then Michelle Pfeiffer in the Fabulous Baker Boys.
Nice.
Yeah. So completely
In
unrelated.
sync on the movie theme. We'll have
Anything-
to see how many albums we're in sync on.
Do you have any movie soundtracks?
I do not.
Okay, I don't either.
All right.
But I wouldn't say that they were rock worthy.
Not back then.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna start.
Other than Trick or Treat.
Was that 85?
No, not
I was gonna say that
85,
was
but
84.
yeah,
Yeah. All right.
that was on the list.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Ready?
All right. We're ready to kick it off. We're gonna go bottoms up. So these are in order of preference from 10 albums, which is hard to select because there's a lot of great music. That
There
came
was
out
a
at this
ton of great music that
Yep.
85.
I felt that this was on the heels of another great year, 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say that out loud. And so I think we'll probably have a lot to really sort through. And it's, to me, hard to whittle it down from 10 to 1.
Sure.
And put it into sequential order. That was just a challenge in itself, too.
Absolutely.
All right. You want to kick it off?
I'll kick it off.
All right.
So my number 10, Bon Jovi,
All right. That's a good album.
7800 Degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes. He doesn't like that album.
I know.
And,
You could tell by how much of it they play live anymore.
But okay, so I'm going to go to this album. I'm going to say a song, like right out of the gate.
Sure.
A song that I love off this album is Tokyo Road.
Absolutely.
That is a hard rockin' Bon Jovi
Yeah.
song.
I mean, most folks know In and Out of Love, which was the big hit
Right,
off of that.
right.
But yeah, Tokyo Road, that's a heavy hitter for me.
And when we see a cover band here, Shot Through the Heart, they always play that song. I
Yeah.
respect that because it's a deep track.
It's a deep track. It's a great track. I love that song.
Yeah. Only Lonely was probably the single. That would be your kind of like love song, but it's not a full like ballad.
Yeah, we hadn't really gotten to that yet.
What's that? Oh, the songs?
The ballads and
Oh,
because also the other cool part to this is, MTV was really starting to take root and blow up.
Uh-huh.
So, videos went hand in hand with a lot of the songs off of the albums during
Sure.
this time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So you started there.
I
Do you
did.
know the another fun fact about that album
What's that?
and really the tour?
I'm not where you're going. I'm trying to think where you would go with the factoid.
Uh huh.
I'm not sure where you're going, so I'm going to let you lead it in.
It was our my first concert ever.
Oh.
But our first concert, we all went together to see Rat opening for Bon Jovi,
Yes.
and we went the long way around on the Beltway.
No, Bon Jovi opened for Rat.
No, Rat. Oh yeah, Bon Jovi opening for Rat.
Yes,
Yeah, that was
yeah.
This was this tour. Uh-huh.
Yes, absolutely. Which was that was a great show.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation. Like live shows from that year.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was like the first time we all went together.
Uh huh.
Amy got lost, went the wrong way on the Beltway. It
Yes.
was fun. Yeah.
I wish I had that. So, like, me, I will hold on to a concert shirt to save my life. I will decay before a concert shirt
Yeah.
decays, kind of. And that, remember they had the purple Invasion of Your Privacy shirts from that
Oh,
year?
yeah, yeah.
I wish I still had that shirt. And I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
because
to
now
it.
you can't get them in
I
color.
painted Damon's sleeve
Yeah.
on that one, didn't I?
You may have. You might have pissed somebody off on that one. All right. Well, speaking of that guy, speaking to one of our friends, our dear friends that we went with, this is almost an homage to him. You might have this higher on your list, Kevin. I have as my number 10, Armored Saints, Delirious Nomad. And I would say that I didn't necessarily want to like this album for a long time, but we had this mutual friend who we're bringing up that would play the shit out of this album.
Yep.
And like just bang it into your head again and again and again. And I didn't want to like this album. And by the way, we're putting in this in the context of 1985. So we agreed to like talk about it in this way. So what we would have listened to in 1985, and we can talk about how that would change now in time, what we listen to now, right? So we're talking about then versus now. And so I didn't like this as much at first.
Right.
And then it just kept getting played to the point where I didn't have a choice but to love it. And eventually I did fall in love with it. So John Bush is a beast on this album.
He is.
Song Nervous Man. So if you're looking for a song off of that one, that's probably the biggest single off of that album, wouldn't you say, is Nervous Man?
Yep.
And I'd say that that is a great workout song for your playlist if you're looking for something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Since there's a bodybuilding contest they're about to do here, so that's why I went to the workout thing. So I don't know if the bodybuilding people are left. They wouldn't let me on the bodybuilding stage.
All right.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Aerosmith, Done with Mirrors.
Okay, good call. That's a great album.
Yes.
Yes. And
Underrated album.
yes.
Not very successful commercially,
Right.
but some great tunes on that album.
Absolutely.
Let the Music Do the Talking.
Which was a Joe Perry tune.
Yep.
Yeah.
That they re-recorded.
Yeah, that
Yep.
Steven Tyler in kind of a chesty Steven versus Joe Perry kind
Right.
of way had to like, I can do it better. And he was kind of right.
Yeah. Gypsy Boots is another great tune off of that record.
Uh-huh.
And then my favorite song on the album is My Fist, Your Face.
Love that song. It's great. It's just a chesty Aerosmith.
Yep.
Swaggy song. Yeah, yeah. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
All right, so you might see that on my list too. I know that some that you're probably going to see some. We're going to see a lot of crossover.
We
numbers.
will.
It's always how we're disagreeing on order.
Yep.
So I know this one's going to be higher for you. But again, I'm going with then, not now. I'm going with then. So number 9 is Anthrax Spreading the Disease.
So I agree.
Uh-huh.
And that's a phenomenal album.
Uh-huh.
But
You're going to call it technicality. I see it in your eyes.
you know, back in 85, I wasn't necessarily into or as aware of
Yes.
some of these bands.
Absolutely.
So I have later in my list the bands that if I was resorting my favorites
The
now,
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's on my list because 85, you start to see, I know we've talked about Metallica
Uh-huh.
in the past, but in 85, you start to see the debut releases from most of the big four
Uh-huh.
and a lot of the other big thrash bands. So Megadeth, Killing Is My Business comes out in 85.
Of course.
This one, Hell Awaits from Slayer.
Yeah.
And then obviously Bonded by Blood from
Yes.
Exodus.
Yes.
So all would be on my list now.
Of course.
But
And
yes.
you were Mr. Thrash, so of course.
Yep.
So I can tell you again, this comes from a friend. This comes like, you know how like, I feel like, you know, I've confessed to me I was a little bit nerdy, you know, as a kid. And so like all the cool people, these cool metal guys were around me. And Mark Simon Petrie, I have to thank him for this album.
I knew you were going to say that.
Exactly.
Your
like,
hero.
Right. He was a badass. He had like this long hair. He was cool as hell. Our last names are close, so we were in homeroom together. So again, like he was really a thrash guy.
Right.
One of the first thrash guys that I know. And then he was really the song, to go to the song, is Madhouse.
Yep.
Which is like, and it's a thrash song, but it's not aggressively heavy. You know what I mean? So it's a
Yep.
good gateway song into thrash.
For sure.
And that was the one that I remember, you know, specifically from that friend of ours that made me curious about this album and then actually pick it up. So I almost can't take credit for what I was listening to then in that way, because it wasn't MTV selling me it. It was the people you knew in and around you that happened to be the metalheads and listening to the stuff.
All right. Up next for me, Wasp, The Last Command.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yep. I know. So that's an honorable mention for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, good stuff. Also, 85 is when the whole PMRC stuff started to come out. So, which Wasp was one of the heavy hitters on that hit list.
Yep.
Which actually helped albums like this and subsequent albums
Yeah.
sell more copies.
Yeah. Yeah. No
So,
doubt.
but yeah, Wild Child
yes. Great
and
song.
Love Blind in Texas.
Yes. That's
And then
right.
obviously the title track,
Yes.
all off of their second album release.
I did not have that Wasp album. And like we're talking then and now. Like
Right.
that was just one. I guess the cool people avoided me and did not expose me to that particular Wasp album. Okay, so this is when we started hearing, and I got to give like a little bit to MTV on this one. So like I said, like MTV was a big influence, at least in what you listened to and saw, and when you would see different types of music and be exposed to different type of music that wasn't on the radio, because the radio was what you had, not the internet. And so that was She Sells Sanctuary, specifically off of this album. So The Cult and Love. So there was other songs. I really hold this album in very strong and high esteem now, but that was really just, again, kind of the track that I listened to. And I listened to this lightly, and then in time, it grew on me in a heavier way, certainly with the release of Sonic Temple, which was coming after this album.
Right. Yep. All right. So got into an interesting debate with some folks related to underrated albums.
Oh, man, Kevin, that's a good call.
And so my next one is one of the most underrated acts of the 80s.
Damn, you're right.
Rough Cut.
I might change my list.
And their debut album.
I missed this one. That's a huge, egregious error on my part. Good call, Kevin.
Yeah. So interesting, right? There were so many people that became, it's kind of like Quiet Riot to a certain extent. Like
Yes.
guys came in
Yeah.
and then they went out and then they became famous.
Yes.
So Jakey Lee was
Yes.
one of the original guitar players with Rough Cut.
Right.
Craig Goldie, who became a lot more famous with Dio. But I love this album. And you were actually the one that turned me on to this.
I know. I was
So-
like, shit. As soon as I saw that, I was like, where was I? I dropped a huge ball on this one.
Yeah. And Paul Shortino is just an
That's where I was
amazing
going to go.
vocalist.
That's where I was going to go.
And loved when he went into Quiet Riot. But,
Yeah.
the first couple releases with Rough Cut were just amazing. Black Widow, probably the best song, in my opinion, on that. Take Her.
Yes.
And Piece of My Heart. All
So-
great tunes off of that album.
Piece of the Heart being the Janis Joplin cover.
It is a cover, yep.
Which is brave to
Right.
cover Janis Joplin, but what you're saying about Paul Shortino is spot on. Like he had the chops to do it in a great
sure.
way and stylize it in his own way.
Yeah.
So he wasn't trying to sound like Janis. Then his vocals were strong enough that he was able to do justice to that song.
Yep.
Great call, Kevin. All right, I'm going to resend you another slideshow now, Scott. Hold on a second. Because that would even be higher than where I'm going right now. Because now I'm finally on my number 6. That's where I find myself with Bon Jovi with your 7800
Bon
degrees.
Jovi.
He was like, this is also where Runaway comes from. We didn't say that song out loud, I don't believe. Did we?
Well, Runaway was on the first
Oh,
album.
wait a minute. No. Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute. It's In and Out of Love. That's
In
what I'm
and
saying.
Out of Love.
Is kicking out. Just yes, so thank you. Of course, like this is also Bon Jovi, like in the peak hair Bon Jovi when he was worshipped and beautiful and like all that kind of stuff, and he gained the lady following that he gained.
Which only exploded with Slippery.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yeah. This, I disagree that this is a bad album, and I think that there's a lot of great tracks, and so I don't. I guess because it didn't have maybe the commercial success the band wanted it to have.
Right.
Whereas Slippery When Wet did, so that's why they appreciate that album more. But if we would go bottoms up on Bon Jovi albums, that would be kind of interesting. I don't know where I'd put that, but it's something I'd have to think through versus the first album.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, both the first and the second album were just good from beginning to end.
Hard rock albums,
Yeah.
and almost in the vein of Foreigner and Journey, as opposed to hard,
Right.
in terms of their peer group, as opposed to like an Anthrax.
Right. Which, to a certain extent, this was the album that most of the actual band performed on the first time.
Right.
Because he had kind of put a lot of the first album already together.
Right.
And then got the guys that are in the band together and then went on tour.
Sure. Yeah. So that's where I caught up to you on that one, Kevin.
All right.
All right. So that's where I had. You want me to go again?
Sure.
I don't know what's coming next. All right. So I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to guess that you have this somewhere sitting in there
do.
too. All right. So number 5 is my Scorpions Worldwide Live. So, and we were talking about this in comparison to the new Dirty Honey album, Revelry and Mayhem.
Yep.
So, and you can have like a really strong live album that presents your songs amazingly well. This is coming off the heels of Love at First Sting.
Yep.
You and I both had that on bottoms up lists for a 1984 album. It was amazing, that
Yep.
album. A lot of the songs that were on that album, as well as Blackout, are on this album.
Yep.
And a huge MTV success was Big City Nights.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it was not only the song and the live recording of the song, but the video. And to me, that live recording of the song is a lot like Revelry and Mayhem. It's just mixed so well. They did a really good job of capturing the magic of the live feel, along with making a quality recording,
Absolutely.
so that you could really hear the instrumentation and the vocals well throughout all of their tracks.
Yep. And on that album, my favorite track is The Zoo,
Okay.
which
yeah.
is just really good live.
Yep, absolutely. And the Scorpions have always been that. So if you've never seen the Scorpions and they're doing the Off Festival like every once in a blue moon now, I can't imagine that you will ever see a bad Scorpion show, and it was always like that for us.
Yep.
They always presented as they sounded on the album, and there were never backing tracks or anything weird that was being pulled, and I think that this album captures that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. It's just one spot higher on my list.
All right.
So my number 5 track is Dio.
I knew this.
Sacred Heart.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Yeah, for me, we're then and now. I'm going to say that. And so then I didn't have that on my radar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, had seen some of the early stuff on MTV kind of
Right.
catching up, and then Sacred Heart came out.
Right.
So yeah, it's firmly at number 5 on then and now.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I mean, just some really legendary songs: Rock and Roll Children, King of Rock and Roll,
Mm-hmm.
and Hungry for Heaven. All just phenomenal. The most popular songs on that album, but just a great Dio album.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you. So actually it didn't make either my then and now list, like I'll confess, because then I wrestled with other albums that also were in the same kind of place. Although there's not too much change between my two lists. But yeah, so I had to make space, in other words.
Sure.
That's the challenge of 10.
Nope, I agree.
Even harder with 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So for me, this is definitely a then thing, because I just loved Night Ranger back in the day, and I listened to the shit out of Night Ranger. And Seven Wishes is just a great follow-up to Midnight Madness. And to me, it's Night Ranger in their prime. I think a lot of the 1985 albums that we're bringing up, I remember, our friend Pete Evick always says this, that 1984 was the pivotal year kind of for hard rock and glam rock. And I feel like I was looking at that with a lot of the albums, because a lot of albums that we're talking about are follow-ups to great albums and great successes that bands had
Sure.
in 1984. And that was Midnight Madness with Night Ranger, of course, with Sister Christian and Touch of Madness,
Yep.
Rockin' America, tracks on that. And so this followed in line with that too. So the biggest track off of this one is Sentimental Street, which to me is almost like a follow-up to Sister Christian, like
Yeah.
in the power ballad, in the vein of power ballads. One of the campiest videos ever freaking made, because somehow they're on a B-72 bomber or whatever, and crashed in the Pacific, like on an island, and
Right.
somehow that's supposed to be a metal ballad video, right? Didn't they find a genie?
Kind of take off on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, but they didn't have Marianne or Ginger.
Nope.
So it was just a Night Ranger out there tooling around on the beach.
Yep.
So strange video, but great album. Night Ranger still in their prime. Maybe not at the same level as Midnight Madness, but I still love this album a lot.
All right. So for me, next was the Scorpions Worldwide Live.
Yes, you got good
So-
taste, Kevin.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be devastated over Rough Cut in this whole conversation, because that is a big miss
All
on my
right.
part.
So I'll go next.
All right.
Now we're getting into the real heavy hitters here, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
next up at number 4 for me, The Crew.
I love it. Of course, I love this.
Yep.
Right. So, and of course, that I'm 1,000% with you here.
Yep.
This is a great album.
Fantastic. The deep cuts are the best part of this album.
Right. Because people dog this album because you love it and hate it with Home Sweet Home.
Yep.
This is the album where Home Sweet Home lives. And a great Motley power ballad, right?
Absolutely.
And some people give that
And that song, that video is what set the formula
exactly.
for every other glam band.
That's what
that
I was about to
followed.
say.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody seems to lay that at the heels of Motley Crue, that
Yep.
the power ballad formula happened there, because they started with Smoking in the Boys Room
Yep.
as their first release. But those two hit songs, It's like if you get, what's the Blind Melon album with No Rain? You know, if you get that album, you're not going to hear No Rain on the rest of that album. You hear a lot of different style of music.
Absolutely.
And that is Theater of Pain.
For
you
sure.
have those 2 singles, but outside of the
It's
singles,
a very dark album.
Louder Than Hell.
Yep.
Use It or Lose It.
Yep.
Tonight We Need a Lover. City Boy Blues.
Yep.
Those are good
They're
rock
the best
tracks.
songs on that album.
Easily.
Yep.
So I would go there. And
Underrated. You know, obviously it was a huge commercial success for them, but most Motley fans poo-poo the album.
Right. I think it was the look.
Probably.
You know, I would always hear the complaint of, you know, Vince Neil in pink and white, right? Like he dropped the red and black and he's wearing pink and white. What the hell's up with that? And singing a power ballad.
Right.
So like your die-hard fans and your Shout at the Devil fans that wanted that edge felt like that edge wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. Save Our Souls. Another really good tune on that album.
Absolutely. I am with you, Kevin. All right, we at number 3.
Think we is.
Because my number, we must be at number 3 because
Okay.
my top 3 are difficult. All right, so this is the following up of the 1984 albums. I love this album, by the way. I love it, which means I want to love all 3 albums and preach them up and down. So Invasion of Your Privacy is there at number 3 for me, just because I liked Out of the Cellar a little bit more, you know. So, but there's great tracks on this. I go right to Dangerous but Worth the Risk.
Yep.
And we saw Stephen Pearcy and Rat at M3 open with that song.
Yep.
And as a deep track opener, it just set a great tone for the rest of that show. So obviously Lay It Down is on this as a single, and You're in Love. Great songs also. And I think all of the tracks on this are just, if not close to being as strong as those on Out of the Cellar. Out of the Cellar, of course, was our number 1. Both of our mutually agreed number 1s.
Absolutely.
It's just, so I didn't have it in the same place in 1985, even though I still love this album and, of course, love the tour. And Rat deserved to headline that tour. Like, they were a way bigger name than Bon Jovi at the time. No doubt.
All right. So my number 3.
All right. You know I love this album, too.
It's the top 3. It could be 1A, 1B, 1C.
I hear you.
In my opinion. But this was the quintessential Dokken album. You know,
Unchain the Night.
Unchain the Night.
Opening song.
Yep.
Yes, it's beautiful.
And the videos that they released with that were great. In My Dreams. But really, I always think back. Anytime I think of Dokken, it's them on the back of a tractor trailer truck.
It's not
doing
love.
It's Not Love.
Yep.
So
George Lynch was in form then. I mean, just in form. And you know me, I did what I could to look as much like him as possible. So I did the highlights, I did the layers, and it wasn't for Bon Jovi. It was for George Lynch. Like, I saw that and I was like, I want to look like that guy.
yeah.
So I am 1,000% with you. The look, this is Dokken at their peak easily.
And The Hunter, another one of my favorites off.
Absolutely. And a great video. That's another great video too. Yeah. All right. That's your number 3, huh?
Number 3.
This is getting interesting, Kevin. This is getting damn interesting because my number 2 is where I find you there, Kevin, with Motley's Theater of Pain. Because again, like all the reasons that we were just preaching love off the albums that we were, this is, you know, I remember defending this album at the time because there were people that love Shout at the Devil so much, which I do too. There was a bit of disappointment from them, remember? When, and especially if you heard a song like Smoking in the Boys' Room or Home Sweet Home, but would ignore the rest of the great tracks that were on there. And people would say, I don't know what happened to Motley. And I'm like, they're still Motley.
Sellouts.
Right.
They sold out.
Right. And they were far from it. Far from it. And their following album, Girls, 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 proved that even more. And so did Dr. Feelgood. Like, they were still being Motley at this time. And this album, I still feel, is undervalued and underrated.
Yep. My number 2, we've already talked about it a little bit. A little Rat and Roll.
Exactly.
So that's where Invasion hits for me.
Right. And so, like, I'm going to pause here for a second since you got the album art up. Because I had to give the shout out to, all right, I remember the name of the girl on the album cover because I was so fascinated with her in my schoolboy way. Remember Marianne Gravatt, and that was, like, you heard the mythology that this was the playmate that was Stephen Pearcy's girlfriend. And for me as a kid, I was like, that really happens?
Yeah.
That's a thing.
And pretty much, I mean, Out of the Cellar, like I agree, Out of the Cellar was just a little bit better, but
Right.
almost cover to cover again.
Yeah.
You know, the tracks were great. You know, Never Use Love
Yep.
and Give It All.
Uh-huh.
A couple other ones. I mean, those two albums, man, they were rolling, and it's just good music.
Yep. You know where I'm going to go for number one.
Yeah.
It's obvious as obvious could be. I'm rocking with Dokken, baby. I'm always rocking. I love, and so like, and this maybe is the pop track in my dreams. My mom still goofs on me about it, that I recorded it on a beta tape, not even a VHS tape, and burned that tape down, basically, like watching that video over and over and over again. So we mentioned the other songs that are there and also the other videos that are there. But I think Dokken is a very underrated act, first of all. And I think they stole the year in terms of hard rock and metal with the quality of the music they put out on this album.
Yep.
I still listen to it a lot, and I love it.
So I'm kind of shocked, especially considering the shirt that you're wearing.
Oh, wait a minute. Did I miss Midnight Dynamite?
You did. I was
man.
so disappointed.
Because number one, as we said, all roads at the Salisbury
redo my
Center
list.
always come back to Kicks.
I know. You're exactly right. You're 1,000% right
Wow.
about that. I know. I thought it was 86.
85, my friend.
Damn. Look, I'm turning red. Turning red.
So yes,
I know.
You are turning red. That's funny.
I am. Like, I'm so embarrassed by that.
you know,
All right. So, like, this, you're having me thinking now as I would think this out. There's like a Sophie's choice here between Midnight Dynamite. I'm going to have to, so I'd bump out, I have to bump out my 10, right? So, Goodbye to Armored Saint. Like if I just,
sorry, Damon.
right? Like if I would just like now just have to like bump everybody back up because I have to include Midnight Dynamite. All right, I'm with you, Kevin. I'd put it at 1.
Yeah, I mean,
That's really hard for me to do to Dokken though. But I'm with you.
that's why I said 1, 2, and 3, even 4 with Theater of Pain.
Man, I thought I was like embarrassed over Rough Cut, but that's really it's an even
It's-
more egregious
it's a
error.
fantastic year of music.
It was. I know.
I mean, and not just the metal side. There were albums like Afterburner came out in 85. It's just good music.
Title track off of Midnight Dynamite's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, another one. It's just cover to cover.
Right. Cold Shower is like a song that to me goes outside of the box of like what a hard rock or glam metal song would sound like at this time.
Right.
It doesn't follow the same chord progression or riff structure as most songs at that time. And so that was just listening to something like from outer space. And it was great in a great way.
Yeah. Lie Like a Rug, Bang Bang, Balls of Fire.
Because I can't believe I missed this too, because one of my favorite Kick shows of all time, if not one of my favorite shows of all time, is when I saw them speaking in the Dokken way, playing out of the back of a flatbed truck in Hagerstown Speedway in 1985. And that was in 1985. So I should have caught that. I don't know why I thought it was 1986.
Well, we are getting
Yeah,
old.
I know. You know, because I remember that because I couldn't drive to that show. So I had to be driven up there because I wasn't old enough to do so. So again, like all of those cues should have led me back to 1985. Yeah. Man,
The goddamn Kicks band.
don't listen to me, man. I fumbled.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple others I think you guys missed.
All right, I knew you were going to come in. I always
Yeah,
liked that.
I was kind of looking, researching like the 1985, and some of this is stuff that like Kicks would be higher on my list now than it was back then because I hadn't quite discovered them. I'd heard Midnight Dynamite, but that was more new to me. But what was hot for me back then, me and Larry Garner, Y&T, Summertime Girls.
Yeah, I know. That was on my radar. Yep.
So that would have been one. And this one I was sort of late to the party on. And I like it more now because I didn't really know about it then, was Whitesnake. Because Slide It In.
Slide It In was 85?
It was, they'd come out. They weren't 85, but I'm just saying that, like, Whitesnake would have been higher on my list now than it was back then. It wasn't an 85. I think it was 84 for that one.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, but I mean, there were you guys nailed pretty much all of them. Dio,
I'm gonna be a nerd about this.
Bon Jovi, Rat would have been my number one by far.
Okay.
84 and 85.
I was about to say
definitely
because you
Rat.
picked your number one for Rat as Out of the Cellar in '84. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That was, I mean, hands down my number one.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you one that I left off my list intentionally, which was really difficult for me because I did listen to the shit out of it, and I still did like all through the '80s, but I considered it pop and not rock. Was NXS "Listen Like Thieves"? So
Oh, for sure.
I love me some NXS, but
Yep.
it's too much synth driven, and the shit that I got for throwing No Doubt's "Tragic Kingdom" on the '95 list, I was like, I'm not going to make that mistake twice, so I pulled that off. So yeah. All right, now I'm going to change my now already. All right, I'm going to look. All right, I just bumped my number 10. Bump that, Scott.
And are you going by release date too? Because I was looking here.
Oh, I like this, a technicality.
Yeah, because Twisted Sister would have been in the top 5 because
Come Out and
Leader of
Play?
the Pack was was 85, but the other one they came out in 84.
Yes, yeah, we put Stay Hungry in '84, but Come Out and Play, I would say it was '85.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you have a whole nother list for now?
I do, but
Okay.
but it's okay. Do you want to talk about your nows? Because I don't have
No,
to.
no, I have
I just
a
added
lot.
it
A
on.
lot of them are still where they would be,
Sure.
but I have 5 or so.
I know you have to have that.
Number 4, baby.
Right, exactly. Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then
Now, if it was, we'll talk next year when Peace Sells
right
comes up.
right, of course.
But
Well,
yeah.
right, because that even came like the theme song for MTV News.
Right.
So you couldn't avoid that then,
Right.
and you certainly can't avoid it
Yep.
now.
That is certainly now.
Right. And we did this. We talked about this a little bit because we did a Megadeth bottoms up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So,
So number 4.
I'm curious
They'd be
be-
number 4 on my now list.
but what about like your songs off of this one? Like what like did you first go to when you think of songs off of this album?
Looking Down the Cross,
Okay.
Skull Beneath the Skin.
Uh-huh.
I love These Boots, but that's a cover tune. But I think they did a pretty good job with that. Those are the 2 or 3
Mechanics.
mechanics. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I figured
mechanics.
you would go there,
Yeah.
right? Because this to me is like the driver of how much was Dave Mustaine involved in the classic Metallica albums.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can hear it in
Right.
all of those songs. And not only that,
I
but
mean,
to
Mechanics
me,
is the Four Horsemen.
yes.
The Metallica song, The Four Horsemen.
But not only that, you can feel the anger from being booted out of the band. In
Right.
just about every one of those songs
Yes.
on that album.
Yes. Yeah. Right. There's a point to prove. And
Yes.
Yeah.
That I'm going to be bigger, faster,
Yep.
and better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not sure they followed through on all of them, but he was certainly faster.
Right. Okay, so I'm just going to say like in terms of just easy changes. So like without going through all 10.
Sure.
This one's a lot higher. I believe this is at my cult love because I can go back and the cult kind of caught me a little bit later as they were continuing to release Sonic Temple, song with Ceremony on it. Oh my goodness, or the album with Ceremony on it. Native American album cover.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
I know. Not Ceremony, but I want to say Ceremony.
It was the follow-up to Sonic Temple.
Follow up to Sonic Temple, exactly. Right. So like as more cult was released, of course, then you're backing into listening to this album more and more. I mean, I know that you and I, like, we went through a thing in college on the radio station where we were playing Nirvana for whatever reason, the song Nirvana from the Cult's Love album, not the band Nirvana. So like, remember that we would
No, it
use-
was Ceremony.
It was Ceremony, so I was right. Oh, okay. I knew there was definitely a track on that called
Yeah.
Ceremony. But yeah, so like so that in other words that just changed and ranked. I have that as my number 3 actually.
Okay. Well, yeah. And so they actually hit my list
Okay.
now
All right.
at number 9.
Right.
So the Cult
Uh-huh.
was number 9.
Gotcha.
Scott was throwing up different slide for
We
me.
are just messing with
Now
Scott.
we're screwing with him.
I'm kind of going in order now, Scott, because I'm going to go to my number 2, which like I said, I rework these. Actually, it would be number 3 because I'm going to keep Kicks at number 1, just out of like just.
Yes,
an
I
egregious
knew that
fun.
would be on the list.
I know. So like this is where like Faith No More, the title track off of this, We Care a Lot. It's just a bitchin' song.
Yep. It's interesting, right? Because Mike Patton wasn't in the band then.
Exactly,
So it's
yes.
a different feel. Kind of the same musically, similar style.
Right.
But the vocals, it's a big difference between We Care a Lot and Epic.
Certainly. And I feel like as Mike Patton could be considered, I guess, rap rock, this is certainly more rap rock. This would be probably the first rap rock album, right? Like not like an offshoot of what like Anthrax did, with Public Enemy.
Sure.
Right. Or I mean, I guess this is 85. So it was even before Aerosmith and Run DMC, because that was 86 that collaboration
Yep.
happened with
Walk This Way.
Yeah, with Walk This Way. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So We Care a Lot. Like, it's just a fantastic album that caught me. It didn't catch me until really Epic came out in the early 90s. And then I started really gravitating towards Faith No More, more and more. But then I backed into this album. Of course, I still listen to this a lot and love it. And I do care a lot about that album.
Yeah. So for me, it was like I said earlier in the show, it's the thrash bands that I fell in love with. And then went back after I caught the entry drugs of the different groups,
Yep.
but going back to them. And so for me, Anthrax, Spreading the Disease is number 5.
Sure.
Would be on 5 on my list.
Just because you weren't in homeroom with Mark Simon Petrie.
I was not.
You didn't have that jammed down your throat. You got another thrash in there?
I do. So at number 7, I have Hell Awaits, Slayer's debut. And then at number 10, Bonded by Blood.
Okay. That's Kevin. So like, it's funny. So I think what we revealed, like in our formative years, in our younger years, we went like into the gateway of hard rock into like glam metal.
Right.
And then from glam metal, we went into more fringe categories, like at least fringe at the time.
Sure.
So you went to kind of the thrash road, and then I went down into an alt rock, and kind of punk way. And I love this album, Freaky Styley, Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is one that I missed in 85 that I wish I would listen. This is produced by George Clinton from Parliament Funkadelic. And there's just some great, goofy tunes on this. Catholic Schoolgirls Rule, Black Eyed Blonde. And if you want to hear, like, to me, Flea at his peak and raging party slap bass,
Yep.
this is the album. And it's an underrated Chili Peppers album, as far as I'm concerned. It gets overlooked. The first one, because it's so different, when it came out. And I think we did Then and Now when we talked about 84. So this is their follow-up from the original Red Hot Chili Peppers album, their second album. I didn't catch the Chili Peppers really until, Mother's Milk was released in 89. And then I backtracked and found all of this other stuff, and I couldn't stop listening to it. It's a very short album, too, probably like a half hour.
Yeah.
There's something that, I do in my cover band. This is 30 Dirty Birds comes off of this.
Yep. I wish they would play more stuff off of all of those albums.
Amen.
The
Amen.
early stuff.
Because this is upbeat Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I understand, like, we were talking about albums versus singles, right? And you feel an artist's mood in an album, and they've had darker moods, right? Which led to darker material.
Right.
This is not that. This is definitely party rock.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, got any more?
I don't.
All right, so I think what we learned today is that I need to do my homework better. I think we had 2 egregious errors on my part. I fumbled. That I don't know if I can recover, especially coming in wearing a kick shirt, thinking that Midnight Dynamite was released in 86, 85, and leaving it off the list.
And I almost wore my Midnight Dynamite t-shirt.
I know.
But instead I wore the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show
Can't go
t-shirt,
wrong.
which you can get your very own copy of.
GetWild.com.
Shop.getwild.com.
Hell yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. You guys got anything to add? Anything more? Anything that you want to call us out on to say we were ridiculously wrong
My
about?
favorite 1985 song was the Bowling for Soup one.
That's not 1985.
That is
Just because it has the year in its title.
Yes.
Oh, well.
We're preoccupied with 19.
Technicalities.
When did Motley Crue become classic rock?
Exactly. You know the song. Yeah.
So, did you hear that from your folks, or did you actually hear that?
No, that's
song?
a classic.
Okay.
Or maybe I did. I don't know.
Were they at the HF Festival?
Only this year?
Yeah.
I think they were.
I think they were
They
there.
actually
Yeah.
said yes to potentially performing here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I mean, we could bring this all up to them. Like, it would be really good questions to them since they wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
Like, where they would stand on the whole 1985 bottoms up list.
What happened to your interview for the upcoming bands?
They didn't get back to me. They were all over me, and then they bailed. So I haven't heard back from you all.
Gotcha.
I know.
Which ones?
So upcoming shows. So
Void the Sandman.
Void, that was it. Void the Sandman was really kind of leading it. I did try to get them in tonight for the April 4th show.
Yeah.
Right. So with Age of Ruin, that is going to be here.
No, Void the Sandman's not with Age of Ruin.
They're
with
wrapping up
Cursor.
Age of Ruins next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
April 4th is Age of Ruin with ladder match. And
Okay.
Yeah, they're with Cursor. Void the Sandman and Anesthesiacs
Yes.
is with Cursor.
Yes. And that's
Where
on
was
a
Voice of Thunder?
Saturday
I thought-
night.
Are they coming back?
Nice. That's
Who?
That'll be a good show.
Yeah.
Who?
Voice of Thunder?
They already played.
Oh, did they?
Sound
I missed
of
that one?
Thunder or
Sound of
something?
Thunder, yeah.
That was last month.
They're good, yeah.
And that's on a Saturday night, right? April 12th.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's my birthday.
Oh, there we
Haven't
go,
decided if
Scott.
I'm taking off yet.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
Void the Sandman is the 12th. It's them, Cursor, and Anesthesiacs, I think.
They're opening?
It's Cursor's the headliner. Void the Sandman is direct support, and then
wow.
the opener is Anesthesiacs, right?
Yep.
Is Cursor that big?
Yes.
Dang.
Yeah. So we, of course, we've talked to them several times. We're always happy to talk to them again. So you can always go back and catch our conversations. Lucas from Cursor, specifically,
Yep.
great guy. Anesthesiac, they're still like basically in school. So like any kind of podcast experience, we caught them first right here on the Stand Up and
That's
Shout Out
right.
show.
They got some new members though, so it'll be
okay.
interesting to catch up
Really?
with them.
Because that was an eclectic bunch that
It
was
was.
in here. How'd you know? How'd you hear about that?
Because I used to work with the guitar player's dad.
I was gonna say, like, what are you on the pulse of Anesthesiac down
I
at
am.
Herndon High School?
We also have in June coming up American Dream Machine and Silvertongue.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Booked them.
And the Ibanez Guitar Fest.
We have that as well. Because we got some upcoming events
Some live music.
and live interviews. So of course we'll have
interviews,
live
yeah.
interviews also.
And of course, Jeff's favorite, Midget Wrestling.
Oh, love it.
in June.
Oh, love it.
No, I think the next time Jeff's going to perform is actually going to be Local Palooza. Have you
Yeah.
got the booking yet? You got the email?
Working on it. We're
Yeah.
working on it, baby. We're working on it.
What's the date?
It's unofficial, so we can't say yet.
Like I was gonna say, like, I was like, that's why I looked at you. I'm like, what are you dropping, Scott? I don't know where you're going.
Drop
We're
it
trying to
while
figure
it's
out
hot.
Local Palooza, Wild Stock. Trying
So
to figure all that stuff out.
I mean, look,
Just don't book it in the month of May.
I have to miss the Age of
Nah.
Ruin show because First Try is playing that night out at Boston Local 2 weeks from now. So to plug my own kind of gig, I'll be exactly. So I'll be out myself, and I unfortunately won't be able to chat with those guys that night.
We're looking at July and after for Wild Stock and Local Palooza.
I figured.
It's good because my calendar in May is pretty full.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Every concert event in the planet seems to be happening in May.
We've got, who do we have? LA Guns, May 1st.
LA Guns,
Metallica,
M3
right?
Rockfest,
M3.
M3. Yep, we have Metallica. There's 2 Metallica shows. We have the DC show and then the Blacksburg show.
What's the other Howl? What?
Native Howl.
Native Howl is May also,
That's
isn't it?
June
Oh,
17th.
AC/DC
AC/DC is also in May here
with
in
the
the
Pretty
area.
Reckless,
With the Pretty Reckless, absolutely.
A Perfect Circle.
Yep. Yes, that's also true. So the Sesenta tour.
Yep.
Yeah. All in May. So there we go. I don't know how we're going to
And Strange Love
Okay.
in April, the end of April.
Nice.
That's the Depeche Mode that's supposedly awesome.
Oh, so that's not the Depeche Mode.
No, it's not the one that's here.
tribute
This
that-
is
yeah.
This is apparently like some Russian kid that sounds exactly like him. They have like 150,000 followers.
Oh, nice.
Pretty, yeah. I've heard they're really good. I want to check them out.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Scott, how you feeling? To feel like old times?
Oh yeah.
Did you
Like
understand
yesterday?
anything that we were talking about?
I didn't recognize many of the bands other than Bon Jovi. Yeah.
What about the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I went deep on an album there. I know you know the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the
Oh,
newer
of
stuff.
course. I know they're water.
You
Under the
wouldn't
Bridge.
know
What is
that
it?
album.
Freaky Style. You gotta listen to Freaky Style because that is a
Okay.
party album.
Huh.
That is not like your lower key Red Hot Chili Peppers. You
Okay.
got them full of piss and vinegar.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go home and write a letter to Steve Whiteman
No, you should. And I'm gonna write
revoking your Hagerstown
many
citizenship.
letters of apologies. I don't even know how.
That's
I
a
don't-
huge
It
one.
was a huge fumble.
You're still getting red again.
I know. It was terrible. Terrible.
I'm
Tell
getting
me,
red for you.
It's been a night here at the Stand Up Show.
All right. Well, we'll all do our better research for the next episode.
Yeah, usually I bitch about the art department. Now it's the research department. Like the art department usually think the fumbles. This time it was the research crew. Damn research crew.
Well, they're underpaid.
Man, I don't even know. I listen to that album all the time. I just knocked the year out of my head.
It
Sorry,
happens.
fellas. Sorry.
All right.
All right.
Wrapping it up.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. We do want to get your comments and feedback and tell us anything you think. Are we right? Are we wrong?
Love all that.
Yep.
Yep. All right.
All right.
See ya.